Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Joshua.
Watchmen is a 9-episode series that recently finished airing on Foxtel Showcase and HBO. It's based on a 1986 graphic novel written by Alan Moore with art by Dave Gibbons and John Higgins. The story imagined a world impacted by the presence of costumed crime fighters and a naked blue superpowered being. America won the Vietnam War. Richard Nixon is serving his fourth term as president. The Cold War is heating up as tensions between world governments reach breaking point. But at the centre there's a murder mystery of one of the costumed crime fighters, and there's a conspiracy it's covering up. That 12-chapter comic series is so dense with lore and character, introducing some great characters like the ink blot mask-wearing vigilante Rorschach and the aforementioned naked blue all-powerful god that is Dr. Manhattan. It was adapted fairly decently into a film in 2009 by Zack Snyder. So what's this TV series about? This is essentially a sequel to the original comic, and it's created by David Lindelof, who did shows like Lost, The Leftovers, and films like Star Trek, 2009. It stars Regina King, Jeremy Irons, Tim Blake Nelson, Jean Smart. Some of the radio audience might know her from a series called Designing Women, as well as Louis Gossett Jr. and Don Johnson. This is a series that takes place in 2019, affected by the cataclysmic events of the original comic. It follows that text religiously, but I think new viewers, of this series could just sit down and watch it and understand what's going on, because it does explain what happens, even though those things might seem a bit insane. So the original comic dealt with the issue of nuclear war, because that was, a big issue in the 70s and the 80s. You can talk, Josh.
No, I'm enjoying listening to this.
And yeah, the insane solution to prevent that by uniting the world against a common threat. This series deals with another major issue impacting upon American society today, which is racism. And it does so well through the context of this somewhat science fiction world. But it deals with real world issues by using those issues and not allegories like, elves are oppressed, or, Mandalorians are oppressed.
What was it? X-Men.
Yes.
For a very long time and still to today.
Yeah.
It's a major racial allegory for comic films.
Oh, for sure, yes. But this series, it starts with this real world event, this horrific race war which took place in Tulsa in 1921. This is an event that's almost entirely wiped from the history books, especially in the South. It's horrific. I've learnt about how much they alter their history books. It's like, how the hell can you... And that explains so much why people aren't just ignorant or denying facts. It's because they're not taught them. And that's...
Like the French policy of whitening the army towards the end of World War II, because they used a lot of colonial troopers, and then Charles de Gaulle started to go, right, let's start bringing in the wider French forces for the photo ops, and then had a huge massacre of these troopers once they sent them back home to these camps, and they started demanding, well, we just won you the war.
Jeez. Yeah, there's actually a scene in this set during World War One, and it starts with ladies typing away in a German war office, and this guy comes out and I want this woman who can speak English, so he gets her to draft this letter which is dumped on African-American troops, and it's basically appealing to them, give up your allies, in Germany you will have a much better life with us, the black man is treated much better in Germany. And as this guy's reading it, like, a white officer rides past and spits on him, and it's like, wow, okay, so it deals with those sorts of issues there. And of course, with all the events that take place in the original comic, that impacts upon this world. In the present day, the KKK has rebranded itself as the 7th Cavalry, and they use the ink blot mask of Rorschach, who was a bit of a right-wing nutjob.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that.
Yeah, they use his mask as their new hood, but I sort of feel like Rorschach was still fighting for right, even though he was a bit nutty. I think he's
more of the guy that's sitting in the basement going, the government's tapping my brain, they're selling a 42 flavour ice cream for only 37.
There's actually a character in this called Looking Glass, played by Tim Blake Nelson. He's like the cool left-wing Rorschach. He wears like this reflective mask, which he pulls over, and it is essentially like a tinfoil hat to protect his brainwaves, because I don't want to spoil too much, but he was involved to some degree in the original events of the thing and lives in fear of what happened. So he protects his brainwaves to keep him safe and wears this awesome mirror mask. Within this world, Robert Redford is president and has been for 30 years. Police wear masks to protect their identity, and they have to be authorised to utilise their firearms. There's another early scene where this guy thinks he's come across a cavalry member, and they won't unlock his gun. Like, he can't access his gun, and he gets shot and killed because he can't get his gun out in time. Which is, I mean, of course, there's politics going on now with guns and all that stuff.
Definitely a huge political message there.
Yeah, but this is like if things were the more extreme.
Yeah.
I think, if they have tasers and pepper spray,
if they reach for those, just as dangerous.
Yeah, but you can't shoot someone dead with your taser.
Yeah, you can.
Or not as easily with a gun.
Not as easily with a firearm, but a taser can kill.
It's such a complicated issue. So it's like, either block it entirely. But yeah, okay. Going back to it. So costume crime fighters are still a thing, and they actually work alongside the police. Regina King plays a former policewoman called Angela, and she was born and raised in Vietnam, which is now America's 51st state. Because America, won the Vietnam War.
So much for the... we're not an empire.
Yeah, and she operates as this costume vigilante. And again, she uses some really brutal tactics as well, but it's like, it's a greater good, and it's sort of an argument there. Jeremy Irons plays Ozymandias, like this billionaire genius.
Yes.
It's not revealed until later on, but it's obvious it's him. He's a character from the original comics who is somewhat responsible for the final solution, which fixes the nuclear war. I won't say that was, but he's so good in it. Jean Smart plays Laurie, who's another character from the original comics. Silk Spectre, and she's now working for the FBI.
Hey.
Anti-vigilante. Like, actually starts with her taking down this Batman-like vigilante. And she's...
a lot like Night Owl.
She is so good in this. It really builds upon her character, and I really got invested in this show when she joined it. It's really a perfect follow-up to the comic, because I mean, the original writer Alan Moore, he was this guy from Northern England with he was essentially a communist. He had very left-wing leaning beliefs, and
worships a snake.
It really impacts upon his writing. I mean, he wrote V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
The Guy Fawkes Masks. He wrote what's considered to be the definitive Joker story, The Killing Joke. And he's been so burnt by the comic industry, he doesn't watch anything. He doesn't, based upon his stuff, he
doesn't want anything to do with it anymore.
But yeah, I think this really does his story. It does expand upon and change some of the elements from his original story. There is a character who is reinterpreted, but since that character was given such a vague backstory...
Was that someone like Hooded Justice?
Hooded Justice, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It does something so amazing with Hooded Justice. I don't want to say exactly what, but...
I think you're talking about the interrogation scene.
Which one's this?
With Hooded Justice.
Oh, have you seen...
I saw a clip.
Okay, yeah. So there's even parodies of like comic book movies and such, and Zack Snyder's style, because there's this TV show that's on within the universe called Real American Hero Story, or something like that, American Hero Story. And it is filmed in the same style of Zack Snyder's films, with slow-mo and gratuitous violence and blood and gore. And it's telling the supposed real story of Hooded Justice, but then there is a flashback episode which shows the real thing. And it's completely different, but it fits. And people were angry because, people like to get angry about things. But it makes sense within the context of this thing. And even the character of Dr. Manhattan is different, but makes sense for what's presented.
He's evolved.
He has evolved. Dr. Manhattan is such a fascinating character. And it really makes him interesting, I think, in this. I finally understand. Because this guy experiences all of his personal history at once.
Yeah.
So when he shows up and he's talking about, I know this thing about you because you tell me in 20 minutes. And she's like, right, I tell you in 20 minutes, right? And then when she does mention it in 20 minutes' time, he reacts in shock because he's like, oh, yes, well, you did tell me. That's the first time I'd heard it. So it's really mind-bending stuff like that. I guess my only gripe is that the first episode does have a bit of unnecessary blood and gore, which is just the HBO staple. So if you can get through a cow getting massacred...
TV, it's HBO.
If you can sit through a cow getting massacred with a machine gun...
Yeah, I reckon I
could. But that was sort of like, is that necessary? A cow carcass being torn to shreds. But the rest of it is just really good. And I think if you're a comic book fan, if you're a Watchmen fan, if you want something completely insane and different, give this a watch. It's available to stream and download on Foxtel and Amazon Prime, apparently.
I Don't know. Don't quote me on that. I saw an ad and I might have been confused.
But yeah, give it a watch if you're interested. Now moving on to The Mandalorian.
Yes.
Hi Ben, sitting silent.
Hello there.
So The Mandalorian is the first live-action Star Wars show. It's the premiering series on this Disney
Plus.
Disney Plus, the streaming service exclusively Disney.
It's this show crashed the Disney Plus servers when it launched in America.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Josh and I have seen it. Ben, you haven't seen
Yes,
it yet.
convince me that I should watch it.
I will convince you and then some.
It's Star Wars.
Of course.
Watch it.
I mean, this show has turned one of my friends who was a vapid Sith fanboy into a Mandalorian fanboy where he's making his own cosplay armor right now.
Wow.
Wow.
I've got a friend.
Made the helmet already.
I've got a friend, which is surprising, I know. I've got a friend who doesn't care about Star Wars at all, and she absolutely loves the series, not just the main draw, which, okay, The Mandalorian, it's the Baby Yoda show. You've seen Baby Yoda, there's no spoilers.
I've seen the friggin' memes on Facebook and all,
Sitting in
and
the
YouTube.
pram.
She's not just watching because of Baby Yoda, she's watching because she genuinely loves the character of the Mandalorian. And all this stuff. So this is a story that takes place a few years after the original films. The Mandalorian is from this creed of warriors, and he's like working as like a gun for hire, a mercenary, a bounty hunter, and he comes across this quarry, which is Baby Yoda, and it basically becomes the story of a single parent looking after his adopted child.
That's the basic of
I
it.
did hear that, and I'm like, no, really? I'm like, oh, it's real. Okay.
It's still really good. I mean, he
Yeah.
grows.
Yeah.
He's really reluctant to begin with. It's like, okay. But as it gets 3 episodes in, and you realize, okay, he actually cares for the little blighter. And
Yeah.
he's willing to blow up an Imperial stronghold to save this child. Because he doesn't know what they're going to do to it.
And defy, the Bounty Legion, really.
The bounty hunter's code of the guild.
Yeah, it's so good in that respect because it really gives you all the Star Wars action, like
It
classic.
turns the outlaw from, the outlaw lawbringer to the criminal.
It is a Western space. Like you could look at these episodes and go like, oh, they could easily convert this into 1800s Mexico
absolutely.
or South America.
You just gotta just turn it into, horses and just one big place.
It is a bit interesting though with the story because a lot of shows now are really serialized. Like you have to watch every single episode to understand what happens. But there's a middle section in this where it's literally just sort of throwaway adventures in a way.
This would be 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. Which is like, the very classic one story of the 7 Samurai, 7.
Episode 4,
Magnificent
village
7.
under siege by an enemy.
Yeah.
And, a band of people banding together to protect it.
I will give episode 4 this. They made the ATST intimidating.
Yeah,
again.
this is the 2-legged walker. It's amazing.
They have this red glow coming out from the portholes, and it's just... When I first saw it, I saw the legs, it's like, okay, that's an ATST track. That's cool. Then when they finally show it, I'm just, whoa, no, yes.
I have a question. How many years is this set?
This is 6 years before Rey's birth.
6 years before.
Oh, I think Rey's 19, so no, it's...
It's 6 years before she's born, and it's roughly 7 ABY.
Yeah, so it's 4 years after Return of the Jedi, roughly. 3 to 4 years afterwards.
Just after the Battle of Jakku, so the Republic is in full swing.
Okay. Yeah, because I was
it's still branching out because it's on the Outer Rim.
Yeah, because I was confused. I was like, so how long is after this, and what's happening to the galaxy at the moment? Because I was like, questioning. I was like, because from what I hear, I haven't watched an episode yet, but I'm like, why are they chucking it almost in between 6 and 7?
Because it shows a great time of lawlessness that the New Republic isn't all reaching.
Yeah, I mean, this empire ruled for decades, and it's still going. It's really like the downfall of the Nazi Empire. It was still remnants.
Warlords and people that are still banding together to try and create some solidified power base. Much with the client and the big bad reveal at the end of Moff Gideon.
Yeah, I want to go a bit into the people behind this series. This was created by Jon Favreau.
Written by Jon Favreau. And
he did Iron Man as well as The Jungle Book and The Lion King. big time director, and he's also done some other stuff in the past.
He's
or whatever.
also played Pre Vizsla in Clone Wars.
He plays another Vizsla in this.
And he does, and he plays Rio in Solo as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's really ingrained within the Star Wars canon now.
He is a huge Star Wars nut, and
also
he should be.
Yeah,
and it shows.
Dave Filoni, who was responsible for shows like Rebels and the Clone Wars, he's a massive, passionate Star Wars fan.
He's directed 2 episodes and even cameoed in 1.
He does. The series stars Pedro Pascal, who some might know from shows like Narcos, as well as Game of Thrones,
Golden Circle as well.
Yeah, he's really, really good in this. There's what's her name, Gina Carano.
She plays Cara Dune.
Yeah, she's like this shock trooper and also like a gun for hire.
Old Iranian. Shock trooper.
Mild spoiler there, but Who is it that plays Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul? Gustavo Fring, and now he plays Moff Gideon. Werner Herzog, the director and actor of like films like Fitzcarraldo and Grizzly Man, he plays the client in this. Nick Nolte is in this. Taika Waititi of like Hunt for the Wilder People and Thor Ragnarok. He directs an episode. He plays a character in this. There's also cameos from like Bill Burr and Richard Ayoade. And
there's a lot of star power in this, and you don't realise it.
Bryce Dallas Howard directed episode 4. She's the daughter of director Ron Howard. She's mostly an actor. I think this is her first big directing thing.
Yeah,
I heard that she actually was a part of Mandalorian. I was like, really, Bryce Dallas Howard? I only know her from like Spider-Man 3.
David Filoni's first venture into live action.
Yeah, it's really well done. Although it isn't like a continued story, and it does sort of leave on a bit of a is that it at the very end.
More of
it felt a bit unfulfilling for me.
Season 1, I look at it as it's setting up the players for the next season.
Yeah,
because it's setting up the crew, who's going to be coming back and who's going to be happening. You got Cara Dune, her little story of she's wanted because one, she killed a bunch of Imperials under the New Republic, and she deserted because she didn't want to be a peacekeeper anymore. It wasn't what she was there for. And you've got the Mandalorian. We start to slowly see his backstory revealed through certain scenes, and it is like it's been ripped out of my favorite comic series from Star Wars, Open Seasons.
I want to know what's going on, but I'm like, I gotta watch it because I want to ask questions. But
I will say this now, Ben. The Mando's story is pretty much Django's original origin.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
This character, the Mandalorians, have been around since The Empire Strikes Back in 1980. Or sort of introduced with a character called Boba Fett, who was this really interesting-looking bounty hunter, which did little, said little, but had a big impact. And then that was sort of
cool.
Yeah. That was expanded with his father, Jango Fett, and all these other characters, and it was sort of wiped from the slate. And a lot of people have been
brought it in with the Clone Wars. They expanded it more. You had 2 factions: the New Mandalorians and the Death Watch.
And people are still fascinated just by Boba Fett, who isn't exactly a Mandalorian in the traditional sense.
No,
and there was a lot of
wore the armor.
There was a lot of call for a movie based upon him, but I think this is
much better.
This is much better because Boba Fett's an established character, and you got other characters like IG-88 who are established characters, but now they've taken and created new characters like IG-11, played by Taika Waititi.
I can just picture him being like, "Hey, well, I'm actually cool."
It's not actually like that. Yeah. It's very serious, and the first episode has IG-11, and it shows the deadly lethality of these IG units in combat.
Yeah, because
that's 360-degree vision.
Yeah, because I remember seeing that in the trailer for one of the trailers that I saw. He was flicking the guns like it was like a freaking carnival ride.
Yeah.
With the money that's behind this, because it is Disney, it looked there's a few janky CGI things.
There's a few janky moments,
but it looks so good, and there's model work and practical effects like all
the
that
IG
stuff.
unit looks like it's there. I feel like I could touch the thing.
Yeah, and it's quite funny because Richard Ayoade, people know him as playing Moss in the IT crowd. He's sort of that awkward character, like that sort of thing.
And he plays an assassin droid.
He plays an assassin droid, and it's funny.
Droid at that.
Taika Waititi's first big break into Hollywood was in the not very good Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds, and he looked. Like Richard Ayoade in that film. It's interesting. They're both playing
droids,
and I've sort of gone off Richard Ayoade a bit, but Taika Waititi's like an amazing merchant, and he plays this amazing character, and then Rich Iard is playing this really bad character. So I thought it was
Royce, and I do love the a droid with arrogance.
Yeah,
with Iardi character, because it's just you meet him like, okay, the Mando hates droids, and then it's slowly partly explained for his flashbacks, and then he's got this thing of, right, I'm piloting my ship. No, the droid is. Don't worry, Mando. I'll do things better and faster than you.
It really builds upon it and has a satisfying payoff in regards to those plot lines.
Every story wraps up, but only 7 and 8 are the only true two-parter.
Yeah, I would say for pure story, it's episode 1, 2, 3, 7, and 6, whereas all the middle ones are just like fun throwaway adventures in a way.
7 and 8.
7
4,
and 8,
5, 6 definitely feel like little side stories, but they're easily dealt with.
Like I said, there's just great character and there is fan service, but if you're a non-Star Wars fan, you can sit down and watch
feel
this.
like it was made with a lot of passion for it?
It was made with much passion for it. I mean, you've got David Filoni, who has pretty much got now 7 seasons of Clone Wars under his belt, with the 7th to be released this year. Jon Favreau, who pretty much helped Filoni write 2 arcs for the Clone Wars when it came to the Mandalorians. And you've got all these other directors who have come in. Deborah Chow, who's directed episodes 3 and 7.
Yeah, that's
they
really
are
good.
my 2 favorite episodes, and now she's going on to direct
Obi-Wan
Kenobi.
Yeah.
You're joking.
I'm not joking.
They're
doing an Obi-Wan miniseries.
Yeah, I knew they were doing a series. I didn't know who the director was.
Yep, Deborah Chow is now doing Obi-Wan.
Phenomenal as a show. I mean, like I said, there's a depth there that I wanted, but I guess it'll be expanded upon. But it does sort of, there's a moment at the end, there's a big fight scene, and it feels like it plays in real time. Like there's a big fight scene, big intense moment, and then it's just
Which
like,
one was that? Was that
this is at the very end involving.
Oh yes,
I don't want to spoil that.
That's
bit for
right.
you.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
but
that incident.
A big thing happens, and then he sort of meets up with his friends, and almost immediately like, good job, Mando. Now we're going to talk to you about this very important thing. And it's just like the dude's still catching his breath. He literally just had this, like, give him a moment. It just sort of feels like... It's funny as well, Carl Weathers is in this. I guess people know him as Apollo Creed from the Rocky films.
And Dylan from the first Predator
Yes,
film.
That's right. Yeah, that's his name. First episode I thought was really good. But then from episode 3 onwards, he sounds like an old video game character.
He does.
Like, hello, Mando. I have a mission for you. It's very important you come see me. I'm Grief Karga, and I have this... It's like, why are you doing that? Like, what are you, like a quest giver in a video game? From
He's
like
pretty
12
much what
years
he
That's
is.
what it sounded like from
He
what you were doing.
is the quest giver because he's the magistrate. The magister and sort of Bounty Hunters Guild representative of the sector. So he's pretty much the quest giver to all these other bounty hunters.
So, but yeah, just wanted to wrap this up now. Definite recommend from you?
Recommendation full-heartedly.
Yeah, I'd say if you're a non-Star Wars fan, there's stuff in this for you to love. If you're a massive Star Wars fan,
it will draw you in.
Yeah, it gives what the films lack, I think, and what no other live-action thing, or even animated thing, even video game thing has really given before. Or maybe video games.
No, maybe some video games and some of the cartoon stuff. I mean, but
I've yet to face down a TIE fighter on a jet. Spoilers, but Battlefront you can do that. So it does give you some stuff like that. So yeah, give it a watch.
Definitely,
I will give it a watch.
I want to wrap up this episode with a final review. This is a TV show I watched a little while ago. It's available on Foxtel. It's called The Righteous Gemstones. It's written by Danny McBride, who's given us shows like Vice Principals and Eastbound and Down, as well as movies like Pineapple Express. This is focused upon a televangelist family. It stars John Goodman, Adam Devine from films like Pitch Perfect and Workaholics. It's really a takedown of the greed and the deception that takes place within these mega church families. It's not so much a critique upon the religion itself. This is a comedy. The first episode does end on sort of a dark cliffhanger note, but it's really funny. 10 episodes. Walton Goggins is also in it. Jeff No, what's his name? John Goodman.
John Goodman
is amazing. It's really funny.
Jeff Goldblum or Jeff Bridges?
Jeff Goldblum. It's a really good series. I recommend checking it out if you have any interest in it at all. Yeah, give it a watch. My mum enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. My girlfriend enjoyed it. If you're religious or not, there's something in it for everyone. And that's the end of that. This has been the Geeks Review. Bit of a quick episode here. We'll see you next time. Next time we're going to be talking about something else.
Who knows what?
Who knows what? We don't know what order these in.
There's a huge movie climate to come this year. And
oh man,
a lot of stuff.
Yes. We're going to look into the film called Suicide Squad that came out a few years ago in anticipation of the release of Birds of Prey, which is a new DC Batman Harley Quinn thing that's coming out.
Batman, but more Harley.
Oh, it's that universe.
It's set in the cinematic, but it's been advertised wrong. That's my opinion so far.
So we'll see how all that goes. We'll see you next time. I'm Royce.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Joshua.
This has been the Geeks Review. See you next time.